Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Mad Meta Magic, where we try to make the magic meta mad. Now, Mark // that is your YouTube username. You've been requesting a mono black Tron list from me ever since I couldn't get the white Tron list to work, and I finally had some time to sit down and brew a deck, so I hope you appreciate it. I can't promise the deck is good, but it should have some game, at least versus Blitz, and I'll get into the deck tech. So, the primary thing about this deck is we are not... Oh, you know what? I just realized I I completely messed up this list because this list needs Expedition Map. Hang on 1 minute. And we're back. Alright, so, as an explanation of this list, I forgot to put in Expedition Map, and this deck does absolutely need Expedition Map. We don't have a lot of straight-up card advantage, but we do have a little bit. And we do want to assemble Tron. We don't need to assemble it right away, but we do need to assemble it at some point. The idea with this deck is, since there's a lot of good creature aggro in the format, we've got Blood Chief's Thirst as removal. We have Inquisition as our primary discard spell with a single Thoughtseize. Expedition Map obviously is a land tutor, so we can go get whatever Tron land we're missing if we need a Tron land. We have Relic of Progenitus as a little bit of Grave Hate plus cycling. We have Collective Brutality because it does a little bit of everything. Helps against aggressive decks, can gain you life as a burn spell. Can duress your opponent if you need to. We have a Sanctum of Stone Fangs, which is part of one of the win conditions. There's a bunch of fun ofs in this list because I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do with it, but we're just going to test it out and see. We've got a couple of Maze Mind Tomes. This is our other draw engine of choice. Can help us get through our deck, gain us some life. Prophetic Prism can filter for black if we need it to. It also just draws us a card. We have Erebos' Intervention. Now this card I was kind of excited about when I saw, because this card we can use as a kill spell that also gains us life, and it's also main deck Grave Hate, which can matter quite a bit. It's also pretty decent Grave Hate. For 2 mana, you exile 2 cards. For 3 mana, you exile 4, and so on. We have Tribute to Hunger, which is one of my all-time favorite cards. I used to play this card a lot back in Innistrad Standard. So did one of my best friends. And, if your opponent is attacking you with a, 9/10 Blitz creature, you just eat it and gain 10 life. We have Consuming Vapors, which is Tribute to Hunger with Rebound, but it's 4 mana. It's also a sorcery as opposed to an instant. I think this probably should be another Tribute to Hunger, but I don't know. This kind of seemed like fun. The Rebound seemed like great card advantage. Honden of Night's Reach synergizes with Sanctum of Stone Fangs. Just kind of like an attrition, make sure your opponent can't do anything. It comes down a bit late, but I still think it's fine if we're playing against a slower deck. We have a Mastermind's Acquisition, which is just kind of a fun of. We can grab something out of the sideboard if we need it. Or we can grab whatever the best card in our deck is. Thought-Knot Seer is our primary beat stick of choice. Just... taxing our opponent's hand more than Inquisition, Collective Brutality already have, I think is going to be good. We have Trading Post, because Trading Post can gain you a bunch of life. It can make you blockers. You can buy back artifacts from the grave. You can sack artifacts to draw cards. It kind of forms a loop with Wormcoil Engine, which I think is kind of fun. Increasing Ambition, another one of my all-time favorite cards. This card is a 5-mana Diabolic Tutor with flashback for 8 mana, but if you flash it back, you get to Diabolic Tutor twice. So it is card advantage. It's kind of fun. Wormcoil Engine, a single Karn Liberated, because I don't think he's too good in the current metagame, but still turn 3 Tron Karn is a thing. Ugin the Spirit Dragon is our board wipe of choice. And of course we have the fun of Worst Fears, because gaining control of your opponent for a turn just seems like fun. Out of the sideboard, we got a lot of Grave Hate. We have some anti-aggro hate in the form of Damnation Force of Despair, Plague Engineer versus Elves versus Boggles versus... Infinite Felidar Guardians. We have a couple of extra Thoughtseizes, and versus Control we have Thought Distortion, because this card should actually be castable at some point. Basically, the plan is we just say, discard your whole hand, this can't be countered, good luck control player, will win the game. And that's the game plan. We'll see if it works. I'll see you guys in round 1. Alright, we're going to be on the play for round 1, and we do have some action. No Tron lands, but hopefully Maze Mind Tome on turn 2 will be enough. We're going to lead on Gemstone Caverns, just to throw our opponent off, even more than playing Mono Black Tron already would. But I don't want to play Urborg, just in case they are a black mana deck that relies on fetching. I want them to lose life, if possible. Opponent plays Urborg for us. How kind. We draw a Power Plant. Play Power Plant. Play Maze Mind Tome. This is the stealth Mono Black Tron play. This is the Think I'm Eldrazi Tron. This is fun. Opponent untaps. They play Eldrazi Temple. Alright. And they play Matter Reshaper. So, on their end step, we'll go ahead and scry. Urza's Tower, we're putting back on top. Untap. We draw Urza's Tower. Play Urza's Tower. Pass the turn. So I'm probably going to Erebos' Intervention to kill Matter Reshaper. Opponent plays Urza's Mine. They go to combat. They attack us for 3. Yeah, I think we just do this. Opponent is going to go, what? Alright, we kill Matter Reshaper, we gain 2 life. Matter Reshaper flips into a Dismember, which won't be very useful against us. They play a Walking Ballista on 1, which we can Brutality. So let's go ahead and scry with Maze Mind Tome. Consuming Vapors. I actually kind of want to keep that because my opponent is playing Eldrazi Tron. That does seem like it would be good against Eldrazi Tron. So we untap, we draw Consuming Vapors. We're going to play Urborg, and I think we're going to Mastermind's Acquisition to go get the last Tron land. So let's go get Urza's Mine. Pass the turn. I don't know if anybody noticed, but I finally replaced my white border Tron lands with black border ones. So you're welcome. Opponent plays an Urza's Tower. I'm actually sort of hoping they play Reality Smasher. There we go. So opponent's going to hit us for 6 here. Alright. We go to our end step. Go ahead and scry. Temple to the bottom. We untap. We draw a swamp. Play an Urza's Mine. I think I Worst Fears and just take a look at what's going on here. If nothing else, this is just a really bad time warp. They may ping us with Walking Ballista, and that's fine if they do. Well, let's take a look at what they're playing. Okay, they ping us with Walking Ballista. They untap, they have Dismember, and 2 Chalices. Alright, so we go to their main. Put Chalice on 0. Put Chalice on 0. Into Chalice. Okay. Then we'll Dismember. Paying life. Tapping here. Okay, we don't do anything. Oh, you know what? I meant to hold priority. Because I could have dismembered the other Dismember. Alright. Float their mana. Yeah, that was actually a slight misplay on my part. So they've got Dismember, Karn, Great Creator, and an Urza's Tower. We untap. We draw Karn Liberated. So this still gives me 7 mana. Draw with Maze Mind Tome. Gain 4 life. Get a Blood Chief's Thirst. There's an answer to the other Karn. Play a Swamp. Play Karn. Nuke. Alright. Opponent scoops. Well, that worked fantastically. Do we bring in Damnation and Force of Despair? We actually have a pretty decent amount of removal. I think Erebos' Intervention versus them is probably a little bit worse than Damnation. Like, we have to spend about the same amount of life for that to work. So I might as well bring in Damnation and Force of Despair. Thoughtseize is a little bit better than Inquisition here, so we'll drop 2 Inquisitions for 2 Thoughtseizes. Actually, is there anything Erebos' Intervention is better than in current main deck? I mean, it's probably better than the Shrines, but yeah. Alright, run it back. Alright, we're on the draw and we got a Thoughtseize. I think we got a mulligan. We only had 1 land. This hand actually seems workable. I'm going to put back an Urza's Mine. When it leads on tower, plays out a map. We untap. Draw Damnation. Glad I didn't put back a Swamp. Let's go ahead and Thoughtseize. They have Matter Reshaper, Chalice, Karn, Great Creator. I think we take Karn. Matter Reshaper's not that dangerous, and if they map for Eldrazi Temple, that's fine. Yeah, we'll take Karn, Great Creator. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Blast Zone. Puts Chalice on 1. That's annoying, but, like, it's not the end of the world. We draw a Thought-Knot Seer. Play a Mine. Pass the turn. So opponent probably going to play Scavenger Grounds into Matter Reshaper. They have an Eldrazi Temple. They drew a Thought-Knot Seer right on time. So they see our hand as 2 Thought-Knot Seers, Eldrazi Temple, and a Damnation. They may take Damnation. They may also just take Thought-Knot Seer. I think Damnation is the most threatening, so yeah, they take Damnation. Alright, we untap. We draw Expedition Map. Play Eldrazi Temple. Play Thought-Knot Seer. Take Matter Reshaper from them. Pass the turn. I think if they attack, we don't block. They play Scavenger Grounds. You know what? I think actually maybe we do block. I was gonna say maybe we don't block because we gain life. but okay, opponent plays Ballista on 2. We untap. We draw Expedition Map. Blood Chief's Thirst. Oh, that's right. Never mind. Play Thought Knot. Let's take a look at their last card in hand. It's a Wastes. Pass the turn. It's too bad these Expedition Maps aren't really doing anything. So opponent plays the Wastes we knew about. No attacks. We untap. We draw Trading Post. That's good. Go to combat. Attack for 4. No blocks for the opponent. Play Trading Post. Pass the turn. Now we have a use for all of our 1-drops we're not using. Opponent puts Blast Zone on 3? They're not leveling up Ballista? I would have leveled up Ballista. Trading Post is not that important. They crack Map. They get Power Plant. They play a Power Plant. They attack us for 2. I guess Blast Zone will also kill Thought Knot. We untap. We draw Tower. Play Tower. Go to combat. Attack our opponent for 4. They go to 12. Pass the turn. Opponent levels up Blast Zone. Sure. And the question is, do we discard for life if they activate Blast Zone here? Or do we sack Trading Post to draw a card? I think we sack Trading Post, really. Because we have no action. And gaining life is fine and all, but we need to be drawing cards. Alright. Opponent blows up Thought Knots here. They draw a card. They play a Matter Reshaper. They attack us for 2. We go to 14. We untap. We draw a Maze Mind Tome. Play Maze Mind Tome. Draw with Maze Mind Tome. Another Urza's Mine. Play the Urza's Mine. Pass the turn. Opponent's got a pretty quick clock, though. So we gotta draw something. We get a few extra redraws, but I'm not sure it's gonna be super helpful. I probably should have taken out Ugin while sideboarding, now that I think about it. They play Ghost Quarter. If this is Reality Smasher, we basically have to top deck Damnation. Force of Despair doesn't do anything, obviously. Yeah, we need to top deck our other Damnation. Get a Swamp. We untap. We draw Thoughtseize. We get one more look at Damnation. Oh, you know what? Alright. Scoop it up. So, Chalice on 1 was actually a lot more punishing than I thought it would be. In that case, probably should have Erebos' Intervention in the deck over like a Relic and an Ugin. And I'll actually bring in the other Inquisitions. I'll drop Ugin, and I'm kind of really light on win conditions, but we need to... I think we need to max out on Hand Hate, because we need a way to actually prevent our opponent from playing Chalice. We could always Mastermind's Acquisition for Ugin if we needed to. We'll play first. I mean, hand's not great. I think we're going to mulligan. This is a little bit better. We'll keep. I'm going to put back a Blood Chief's Thirst. We have Force of Despair, which we can pitch a Blood Chief's Thirst to if they have Chalice. It looks like our opponent mulliganed as well. We'll lead on Urza's Mine, pass the turn. Opponent plays an Eldrazi Temple, plays an Expedition Map. They pass, we untap. We draw Maze Mind Tome, play Maze Mind Tome, pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Blast Zone. Chalice on 1. This is fine. Let's go ahead and scry. Power Plant to the top. Chalice on 1 does suck, but we don't actually need any of the 1-drops we've got right now. So we untap. We draw a Power Plant. Play Power Plant. Pass the turn. I could have played a Swamp and hardcast Force of Despair, but I think I would rather exile mode Force of Despair and then like draw off of Maze Mind Tome. Especially if they were playing like a Thought Knot Seer here. Okay, they crack Map. Overall, I think this is good for us. They get a Temple, and they play it. So move to their end step. We draw an extra card. It's a Thoughtseize. We untap. Draw Urza's Mine. So Thoughtseize doesn't do anything. So we're going to play a Swamp. This gives us hardcast Force of Despair if we want it. Pass the turn. I mean, the ideal situation is Force of Despair nabs 2 or more creatures at one time, but unless my opponent double Matter Reshapers, that's kind of a pipe dream. Matter Reshaper. Matter Reshaper, alright. Cast Force of Despair. Opponent flips Expedition Map, so they get to put a map onto the battlefield, and they flip Walking Ballista, okay? So on their end step, we'll scry. Sanctum of Stone Fangs is a clock, even if it's a very slow one, so I'm going to keep it. Scrying it to the bottom was probably the play, but Players is mine. Play Sanctum. Pass the turn. So opponent might just have Big Ballista this turn. If it's Reality Smasher, Consuming Vapors is awesome. If it's Thought Not Seer, Consuming Vapors is not awesome. It's Thought Not Seer. Well, that sucks. Yep, they take Consuming Vapors. On their end step, let's draw a card and gain some life. Worm Coil. Alright, let's get a land for Worm Coil. Thought Not Seer is okay. We drain our opponent. Play Thought Not Seer. They dismember to kill it. Its opponent gets to draw, and then we get to duress them. Chalice of the Void, Ballista, Ballista. I'm going to take a Ballista. Pass the turn. Opponent cracks map, so they're going to assemble Tron and have a huge walking Ballista. I mean, in theory, we still get to play a Worm Coil. They play Tower. They play Ballista X4 and hit us for 4. Not sure why they didn't use the Eldrazi Temple mana. Unless they have another Thought Not Seer, and if they do, that's so punishing. They don't. Did they draw a Spatial Contortion? Okay, so we drain our opponent. We can Increasing Ambition for an Urza's Tower. They have Warping Whale? Ugh. We needed that land. Oh, if we'd gotten the tower, we could play Worm Coil Engine and then flashback Increasing Ambition. That would have been sick. That was an awesome top deck by the opponent. I'm really frustrated because like we're so close to doing cool things right now, and like actually standing a chance at winning. Yeah, our Sanctum of Stone Fangs is doing a real good job of being a Curse of the Pierced Heart right now. Opponent levels up Ballista, so they can hit us for 11. We need to draw a land to play Worm Coil or Damnation. Tribute to Hunger also might... No, Tribute to Hunger does not let us live. Erebos' Intervention. So I can Erebos' Intervention to kill Thought Not Seer, which I would gain 4 life. I would go to 16, they level up Ballista, hit me, and ping me to death. That Warping Whale was so clutch. Ah, and there was the land. Yeah, we had to draw that land that turn. Oh, that was close. I'll see you guys in round 2. All right. We're on the draw for round 2, and this hand looks okay. It's not amazing, but maybe we can do the Eldrazi Tron thing. Okay. Opponent is Tron. Play tower, play map. Pass the turn. Maybe we can just fake being Eldrazi Tron. Alright. Opponent plays tower. Sorry, I'm... Oh, man. I just kind of had the wind taken out of my sails right now. As I'm recording this. I just learned that the author of Berserk died. The manga. And Berserk is like one of my all-time favorite things I've ever read. It's incredibly brutal and gory and kind of explicit, but like the series was just so good, and it's super sad to hear that the guy passed away. I was really looking forward to the end of that series too, and it's unfinished. So anyway, get a power plant, untap, draw Erebos' Intervention, play power plant, play Thought Not Seer. Opponent has Warping Whale and Walking Ballista, so they are Eldrazi Tron as well. Well, I say as well, but we're not Eldrazi Tron. This might be the same guy. Is this the same guy? No, it's some other K name. Alright, so they crack map. I think if they get Blast Zone, we don't play this other Thought Not Seer right away. Probably what this means is our Gemstone Caverns tech land ought to be a... It ought to be a... Why can't I think... Sorry, I know why I can't think right now. That Gemstone Caverns ought to be a Ghost Quarter. Oh, god, this is not good. So I guess I Blood Chief's Thirst the Spirit. I could ignore the Spirit. I don't have double black, so I can't kick Blood Chief's Thirst. I could Erebos' Intervention the Spirit and just attack my opponent. Okay, I think I know what I do here. I play a Swamp. We will Thirst the Spirit. Opponent gets to put a card into their hand. We've got to play the other Thought Knot now. Take the Warping Whale, they have a Wastes. Go to combat. Attack Ugin. The problem is next turn, my opponent can just spend, like, ticking up Blast Zone. And they have a Waste, so they have exactly 8 mana if they want to do it. So they uptick, they play Karn. That is a problem. They wish. So we have to kill Karn. There's no option here. Worm Coil Engine. If I draw the last Tron land, I did not draw the last Tron land. Ah, can I do anything about this? Yeah, I needed to drop Urza's Mine. If I did, I could actually kill the Wormcoil Engine, swing both at Karn, but I not with this hand. I've already lost. So, we're going to go to the next game. I know that was a bit of an early scoop, but with 2 active Planeswalkers, there's very little we can do. We'll bring in Thoughtseize. I'm going to cut Relic and an Ugin. Damnations are coming in as well. We'll drop a Prophetic Prism. Do I drop the other Ugin? I'm going to drop Honden of Night's Reach. Bring in Force of Despair and drop Sanctum. I'll leave 1 Ugin in the main deck this time. That just seems to make more sense. Alright, we're on the play, and this hand doesn't do anything, so we get a mulligan. This hand also does not do anything. Really wish one of those lands was a swamp. Well, I said I wish one of those lands was a swamp, not only one swamp. Alright, we got a mulligan. Okay, so we're putting back Worst Fears, Damnation, Map. So, probably I should have put back Inquisition, I should have kept Map, and I should have tried to map for Eldrazi Temple, because that at least gives me a guaranteed threat that I could play by turn 3. I guess I was overvaluing this Inquisition. Opponent plays Eldrazi Temple. We untap, we draw Wormcoil Engine, play a Swamp, pass the turn. Yeah, we basically had to draw Eldrazi Temple with that line, because now my opponent can play Thought Knot and take our Thought Knot. Yeah, alright. I'll see you guys in round 3. I'm going to take a quick break. Alrighty, we're on the play for round 3, and I'm going to keep this hand. We've got removal, we've got an Urza land, we've got an Expedition map. If we are against a controlling opponent, oh, it's Luris. It's either Mill or Death Shadow, or Burn. Play Tower, play Map, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, Verdant Catacombs. So this is looking like Jund Death Shadow. They shock an Overgrown Tomb into a Noble Hierarch. Alright, and a Bauble. I don't know if we worry about the Noble Hierarch, or if we kill it, actually. We untap, they draw a card. We draw Erebos' Intervention. I guess that makes things easier. It just depends on whether or not we think they're going to use that mana right away. I think I'm going to kill the Noble. They untap. They might have been relying on that. Okay, they play an island. This is some kind of Sultai. Another Noble. We untap. We draw a Power Plant. So, play Power Plant. Bloodchief's Thirst. Alright, pass the turn. Next turn we get Thought Knot Seer into Honden of Night's Reach. That would be pretty cool. Alternatively, we could play Wormcoil. Opponent just scoops. They want nothing to do with this. Alright. Let's bring in Thoughtseize. They're playing blue, so I kind of want Thought Contortion. I'm going to cut Prophetic Prism. I think I still want the Relic. Honden's bad, probably especially with Thought Contortion. I'll drop the Sanctum as well. And maybe I bring in a Cling to Dust over... probably over Worst Fears. I'll try it like this. The one thing that is nice is our deck does gain quite a bit of life. I don't think we can keep just off of Relic, so I'm going to mulligan. This is a little bit more reasonable. I'm going to put back Thought Distortion, I think. We're the furthest away from casting that. Opponent leads on Misty Rainforest. Cracks for a Breeding Pool, untapped, and plays Noble. Cracks Bauble immediately. We untap, they draw, then we draw. Okay. So, Swamp, Inquisition. This could be Infect, actually. It is not. Tarmogoyf. Pass the turn. So opponent can get a redraw if they want to Spreading Seas our Swamp. They might just play Swamp and put Luris in their hand. They do. We untap. We draw a Thoughtseize right on time. I should not have played out the Urza's Mine, because they're going to Spreading Seas that. But, you know. Pass the turn. Kano can't go a game without punting, I don't think. Opponent Spreading Seas Urza's Mine. Sure. Actually, that's really bad, because now I can't play Thought Knot. Oh, Kano, come on, man. They play the land we didn't know about. They get a Watery Grave. They unearth Luris, which lets them play Bauble. That is kind of broken. I mean, not horrendously broken, but, like, that's really strong. Opponent attacks for 1. I really hope we can draw something like Collective Brutality so we can kill Luris. Or Erebos' Intervention. Inquisition doesn't really do it. Play Swamp. If I Tribute, they just replay Noble, so I guess we Inquisition. Take Bauble from their hand. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They could Snap... I should have taken... No, because then they could just Snapcast or Unearth. Wow, we really needed Grave Hate. They play Tarmogoyf. I would have replayed Bauble and just Snapcaster Mage targeting Unearth to get back Goyf. Alright, we untap. Draw Gemstone Caverns. Mercifully, we draw a colorless land. Opponent can just flash in Snapcaster Mage to have a blocker, and then we can't take anything from them. Maybe? Oh, they play Ice Fang. Okay. So we get to take Snapcaster Mage, and they're going to have a Death Touch creature, probably. Pithing Needle. Take Snapcaster. My opponent is not going to know what to Pithing Needle against us. They can probably make a lucky guess, but we're currently stonewalling the ground a little bit. I guess they can attack with Tarmogoyf because of Noble. They play Bauble. Man, I really, really dislike Lurrus Bauble. It's not like... It's not particularly busted. It's just really annoying because it gives black and white effectively a Phyrexian Arena they don't have to pay life for. Like, and yeah, it folds to Grave Hate and a bunch of other stuff, but it's still annoying. Play Maze Mind Tome. Are they playing counterspells too? Alright, it resolves. Pass the turn. They flash in another Ice Fang. They untap. We really need to draw Damnation. They play a Swamp. They probably replay Bauble and draw a card. They go to combat. They attack for 4. They almost attacked in such a way that they didn't get the Exalted buff. They hit us for 4, we go to 5. They play Bauble. They almost Fatal Pushed, I think, without cracking a Bauble first. Okay, they play a Tarmogoyf. Then they're going to play a Pithing Needle, so we need to draw a card in response. Thought Distortion. Not really going to do anything here. Alright, we untap. They draw a card. Damnation. Not Damnation. Alright, we'll scoop and go to game 3. So in game 3, I'm going to bring in Surgicals. I think that's probably better than Thought Distortion. We also need Damnation. I apparently didn't bring in Damnation. We'll cut... I don't need Cling to Dust. And I can probably cut Mastermind's Acquisition. I would like to play first. Okay. This hand actually looks good. We'll keep. Depending on whether or not we draw a land, we can either map for... we might have to use Erebos' Intervention as Grave Hate, but we might map for the Eldrazi Temple. They mulligan to 6. They mulligan to 5. Alright, they're starting with 5 cards in hand. Players is mine. Play Expedition Map. Pass the turn. When it plays Misty Rainforest, cracks Misty Rainforest for an Overgrown Tomb into a Noble. So we draw Inquisition. I think it's time to 2-mode Brutality. And I'm going to ditch Consuming Vapors. They have Inquisition, Assassin's Trophy, and Abrupt Decay. So take Inquisition. Pass the turn. They can Abrupt Decay our Expedition Map, which would set us back, but not that much. They play Verdant Catacombs, they get a Watery Grave untapped. They Abrupt Decay the map. We untap. We draw Inquisition. So we take Assassin's Trophy. Pass the turn. Opponent plays out Tarmogoyf like a top-decking god. We draw Brutality, which, oh god, I'm going to die to this Goyf. If I draw a land, I might be able to Erebos' Intervention enough stuff away to shrink it so I can Brutality it. It's just not likely. So they untap, they draw. They play Verdant Catacombs, they attack us for 5. Looks like they're going to put Lurrus in hand. Eldrazi Temple would be the best draw. Next best draw would be a Tron land we don't have. Third best draw would be Hand Hate that can take Lurrus. Okay. So play a Swamp. Man, I wish you gain X life was regardless of which mode you chose. That would make Erebos' Intervention so good. Pass the turn. So we have Sorcery, 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 Artifact in our grave. So if I exile all of the creatures and the artifact from my grave. So get rid of the artifact, Snapcaster, Hierarch, I guess Abrupt Decay, because I can't get rid of the sorceries and I can't get rid of the instants. Artifacts is... I guess they have artifacts too. I could get rid of the 2 instants. No. So shrink the field. This also means Luris has no immediate value unless their last card is Mishra's Bauble, which is possible. So they hit us for 3. They play Luris. We need to draw a land and play Thought Knot. Then we need to be able to kill Luris next turn. This also assumes my opponent is, like, bricking. Second Thought Knot. Okay, I can drain them, but honestly, I think I need to duress them. Pitch one of our Thought Knots. Take the Assassin's Trophy. That was pretty important. The problem is, now there's a creature in the grave again, and Tarmogoyf. I didn't bring in the Nile Spell Bombs. Why didn't I bring in the Nile Spell Bombs? They hit us for 4, we go to 8. We need to draw a land this turn, or Bloodchief's Thirst works. Kill Goyf. The problem is, if my opponent draws Unearth, and they unearth Luris, and then they just replay Goyf, like, what do? We have to have, like, land and damnation to deal with it. Oh my god! Come on! Okay, there's a land. I need a way to gain life, and I need a way to kill that Tarmogoyf. They play Bauble. I hate Bauble so much. I hate free effects. The fact that they banned all of the free effects, except, like... They basically banned literally all of the free effects. And then all of a sudden, even some of the worst, the, like, laughable free effects are still playable. Because they're strong. Because they're free. Oh, so frustrating. Now I have to chump. We were so close to winning this, too. It was like, literally, my opponent just had to not... Yep. I'll see you guys in round 4. Alright, round 4, and we're on the play. I think this hand is fine. We will keep. Okay. Lead on Urzaland, Expedition Map, pass the turn. Opponent plays Power Plant, because apparently this is the Tron League. Play Swamp. Yeah, we're gonna go get Eldrazi Temple. Pass the turn. Opponent plays Urza's Mine. Passes. We draw Inquisition. And I hope this does something. Play Thought Knot. Take a look. Wormcoil, and they have the tower. Take Wormcoil. Pass the turn. Natural Tron, and Redundant Threat. Every Tron player, but me. Oh, woe is me. Alright, you get your Wormcoil. We draw Inquisition. Play Prophetic Prism. Draw Worst Fears. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Forest. Plays Oath of Nissa. Oh, this is the, like, Tron list that's playing Nahiri and all that stuff, too. I'm, like, 99% sure I've seen this guy before. They play another Wormcoil, because... when 1's not enough, get 3. We draw a map. Is there any way I can get out of this at all? Let me think about this. I don't have any main board Wraths. All of my kill spells kill, they don't exile, which means we have to deal with the tokens too. My board wipe of choice is Ugin and they're colorless. Alright, we're going to game 2. So game 2, we're going to bring in Thought Seizes. I'm going to bring in Surgical. We're going to cut Ugin. We are going to cut Sanctum and Honden. I do need Damnation, as much as I don't want it. Collective Brutality is not particularly good versus Tron, so I'll bring in a Thought Contortion, or Distortion. I keep calling it Thought Contortion, but it's Thought Distortion. So, yeah. Alright, let's do it. Alright, I think I can keep this. Opponent just powdered. Yeah, this is like got doubling seasons and all kinds of crazy stuff in it. Hopefully hand hate is enough to disrupt our opponent. Like if they keep a hand that is wholly reliant on an expedition map or a Sylvan Scrying and we don't get subjected to the Thoughtseize curse, maybe possibly this is enough. This is like a pretty decent looking hand. Alright, we're going to lead on Urborg and Inquire. Like a god. Man, Tron Walker, truly, you live up to your name, walking amongst the Tron, because, hot damn, I want you to know I have never been as good at Tron as you are. Yep, I don't even have Ghost Quarter. Play Maze Mind Tome, we're going to scry immediately. I have to hit, like, Thoughtseize next turn, Swamp to the bottom. Pass the turn. Opponent's going to go second Tron land here. Yep. Stop on our upkeep. Scry, because we have to hit Thoughtseize this turn. Like now. Surgical does not do it. Surgical to the bottom. We draw Surgical. Play Tower. Prism. Thoughtseize. Well, we have Tron. We can Karn their Karn. Maybe. That is, unless they Liquid Metal Coating us. Ensnaring Bridge. I am not scared of an Ensnaring Bridge. Okay. Players is mine. Play Karn. Do we hit the Karn or do we hit the land? We hit the Karn. Pass the turn. When it plays a second tower. Don't you dare, Ulama. Okay. I forgot to scry and respond. Oh, so brutal. They're gonna wish for... What are they gonna wish for? They're gonna wish for Pithing Needle or Spyglass. Shut off Karn. They could wish for... Yeah, okay. Yes, this makes sense. Man, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated. I'm not saying my opponent's deck is bad. My opponent's deck is actually really good. And I'm not saying the deck that I'm playing is bad. It's just, like, my deck does powerful things. It's just inconsistent. I'm frustrated because the best hand we've had all night, and my opponent just natural Tron and redundant threats, completely dodge Inquisition, just massive middle finger to everything you're going to try and do. Yeah, why not have a third Karn? Why not a fourth? You got it, man. I'm so salty right now. So salty. Draw Inquisition. We know Inquisition doesn't do anything, so play Gemstone Caverns. Okay, let me think about this. I can Mastermind Acquisition and have 5 colorless mana after the fact. So if I'm going to Masterminds Acquisition, what am I getting? Nothing out of the sideboard seems remotely useful against what my opponent is doing. If I could kill Karn, I could Surgical the other one out of his hand, but I don't have a way to do 3 direct damage to the Planeswalker, I don't think. So, let's take a look at our deck. I don't have double black for the 5 mana either, so I can't get Bloodchief's Thirst to kill it. I just don't have anything. I mean, I guess I get Bloodchief's Thirst, but I'm not sure I can do anything with it. Pass the turn. And, like, we have no way to remove that Sorcerer's Spyglass. Like, Karn would be our way to do that. Opponent's going to cycle for green. They draw a card. So what has to happen here is we have to Bloodchief's Thirst, kill Karn, surgically extract it, take the other one. Opponent has to draw dead while we are drawing extra cards with Maze Mind Tome and try to find a way to win through a bridge that I'm not sure we have, especially because I just cast Mastermind's Acquisition. And the only way I have to directly interact with my opponent is creature damage, Worst Fears, and the Ugins I sideboarded out. So I actually don't have a way to win. Because I took out Sanctum of Stone Fangs too, so I can't even just drain them. So I think, while this deck is cool, I think the version of the deck that I was playing that, like, you didn't have to assemble Tron, the one that was playing all of the talismans and stuff to try and ramp out early Thought Knots, was playing Karn Great Creator. Yeah, we're just going to scoop. I think that version was better. Like, this version has some promise, but I'll talk about it in the wrap-up. Alright, we got 2/3 of Tron and Relic. We're going to keep. So we start with Relic. We might be cycling this immediately, we may not, depending on what our opponent is playing. It appears as though our opponent is playing Control, which we might actually have some game against. I like how I was like, yeah, we'll be fine against Blitz. And I've played against, like, 4 Tron players? It wasn't 4 Tron players. One of them was it was 3 Tron players. One of them was a Lurrus player. Exile the Flooded Strand. They get a Hallowed Fountain tapped. They untap. They play a Flooded Strand. This is definitely Control. This is not what I wanted to play for the last match of the night, by the way. Oh, maybe it's not Control. Maybe it's something else. Shacklegeist. It is Spirits. So we're going to cycle this because we know we don't need it. Untap. Draw Nurse's Mind. Play Power Plant. Pass the turn. Next turn, we're going to try and cast Consuming Vapors. Hopefully, my opponent does not have a counter spell or a Maelstrom Not Maelstrom Wanderer. I always say that. Maelstrom Mausoleum Wanderer. Okay, they play a Supreme Phantom. They hit us for 3. We take 3. We untap. We draw Erebos' Intervention. Play a Swamp. Consuming Vapors. Pass the turn. Opponent loses Shacklegeist. We gain 3 life. Oh man, if they Spell Queller the rebound, we can Erebos' Intervention to kill the Spell Queller, and it's just... we get another rebound because of it? Okay, so they let Supreme Phantom die. We draw Blood Chief's Thirst. Play an Urza's Mine. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Aether Vial going up to 2. They play a Drog Skull Captain, and they are passing. We untap and draw Increasing Ambition. So, play a Swamp. Pass the turn. If they activate Vial on our end step, we Erebos' Intervention. Okay, we're going to gain 5 life. They Vial in. Selfless Spirit. Okay. Well, that's thirstable. But it plays a Waterlogged Grove. Gets in for 2. We go to 25. Untap and draw Thought-Knot Seer. Let's cast Blood Chief's Thirst. See what happens. They Vial in Spell Queller. Play Temple. Play Thought-Knot. I could have cast Increasing Ambition here. I can also do that next turn. Does my opponent have another Spell Queller? Okay, Collected Company. So they're hoping to hit something, either a Spell Queller or a Phantasmal Image. They get a Spell Queller and a Drog Skull Captain. Alright. They play a land, they play Wanderer. They're going to hit us for a lot. So we take the hit. We go from 25 to 14. We draw an Urza's Mine. Okay, so Increasing Ambition. I think I'm dead just due to damage. Because they hit us for 11. They have 13 damage on board. If they have one more Spirit, we just die. Because we have nothing that interacts with the board as is. I can get Tower, but that doesn't do anything. All their guys have Hexproof except Drog Skull Captain. I need to get a board wipe. The only ways I have to get a board wipe is to get Ugin right now, or I can get Mastermind's Acquisition and then Mastermind's Acquisition for Damnation or something. We'll get Ugin. Play a land. Pass the turn. I was really hoping I could get Tower off of the Increasing Ambition, but the problem is Ugin Downtick doesn't even do it, because they still just, like, they could just Vial in a Spirit after the fact, and then what would we do? And they just have to play one Spirit here to pump Mausoleum Wanderer, and we die. If they have a Lord, we're super dead. Skyclave Apparition. That does it. That does it unless they can't math. But they should just attack and kill us. That's the only way that that Skyclave Apparition play makes sense. Man, we gained 11 life and answered 3 creatures. That's frustrating. So Force of Despair, Damnation's in. Plague Engineer doesn't really do a whole lot. So we'll cut Relic, cut Worst Fears, and the Honden of Night's Reach. We'll try it like this. Alright, we'll play first, and this hand seems okay. We have an Inquisition, which hopefully we can use to interrupt what our opponent's doing. If we can take an Aether Vial, then they have to play fairly. We can Erebos' Intervention. We have Maze Mind Tome to draw extra cards, a map if we need to map for like Eldrazi Temple for Thought-Knot. There's a lot of things this hand can do, but we're going to lead on Inquisition. So opponent kept a slower hand. So my options here is to take the 2-drop, or to take the Spell Queller, or to take the Drog Skull Captain. I think we take the Phantom. Alright, pass the turn. Opponent plays Hollowed Fountain tapped. We untap, we draw a Swamp. Play a Swamp, play Maze Mind Tome. Pass the turn. They play an Island. Scry on their end step. Tower to the top. We untap. Draw Tower. Play Tower. Play Map. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They can't play Apparition unless they drew a white land. They are going to play out Redain, which means Erebos' Intervention is not going to be able to do a whole lot unless we draw Tron. So we draw Urborg. We will stop on our upkeep and scry. Trading Post does literally nothing in this position. We draw Ugin. So play Gemstone Caverns. Play Thought-Knot Seer. Take... Wow, that's a lot of good cards. Skyclave Apparition, I think, is the biggest problem, because that answers Thought-Knot Seer or our current advantage. Problem is, if we take this and they draw a land for company, we're screwed. I think we still have to, but damn it. They hit us for 2. We untap. Scry on our upkeep. We're going to need all of our mana to cast an Erebos' Intervention anyway. Collective Brutality. Put that on the bottom. We draw an Urza's Mine. Play the Urza's Mine. Go to combat. Attack for 4. Well, we can at least map for Power Plant. When it cracks Misty, for Temple Garden untapped. They're going to Collected Company here. Okay. Company gets them Supreme Phantom and Drogskull. And the double Lord effect means we can't just Erebos' Intervention. They're going to block down. They are not. Alright. Let's go get Power Plant. We know what their hand is. Their hand does not beat an Ugin. Now, if they drew like Ghost Quarter or Field of Ruin, then just, they got it. Is this just like a main phase company to just kill me? Okay, they play a Drogskull Captain. They hit us for a lot. We untap. We draw an Urza's Tower. Play Power Plant. Somehow we have just enough mana. Play an Ugin. -3. Wipe the board clean. Thank goodness for Ugin. Yeah, I'm not going to make any adjustments. We'll just run it back. That was like what this deck wants to be doing. It's kind of slow for being on the draw, but we do have 2 Erebos' Intervention. So maybe if we get enough, or if they're slow enough, they play Noble. If we were on the play and they started a hand like this, we actually would be able to do something. We'll lead on Power Plant, pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play Flooded Strand. They are not attacking. We draw Inquisition, play a Swamp, pass the turn. If they don't do anything on our end step, I'm going to kill this on their upkeep. Because they're kind of acting like they have a Spell Queller. And if they want to keep that mana, they have to use it now. And this way, if we draw another black source, I can Inquisition. Okay. I mean, this is fine, in theory. Okay, we draw Thought-Knot Seer. I think I still Inquisition here, though. Because if they have Spell Queller, I think they actually Spell Queller this. Yeah, this is better than them hitting Thought-Knot Seer, I'm pretty sure. Not by a lot. Play Prophetic Prism. We draw Consuming Vapors. Consuming Vapors is really good against them if we draw a land to actually cast it. They play Damping Sphere, which is actually fine. We just need a land. Play a land. I'm going to cast Consuming Vapors. I mean, we won't be able to cast Inquisition, but Force of Negation, pitching Force of Negation on Consuming Vapors, that seems a little suspect. They fetch up a Temple Garden. That must be their only threat. Their last card in hand has to be a land, I think, for them to make a play like that. That, or it's Redain, and we're screwed. They hit Prophetic Prism with Skyclave Apparition. That's not particularly dangerous. Okay, let's see what we draw. It's a land, which is good. Doesn't matter that it's a Tron land. Just the fact that it's a land is good. So we Thought-Knot Seer them. Take Shacklegeist. Pass the turn. We have a kill spell. Nice. When it hits us for 4, we untap and draw Power Plant. Play Power Plant. Pass the turn. At least Erebos' Intervention is not quellerable. Hopefully we can get a good surprise attack. So they swing out, we kill the Skyclave with a Thought-Knot under it, we block the other Skyclave down. They play a Shacklegeist. Okay. They go to combat. Swing out. Nice. Maximize Erebos' Intervention. We get a 4/4. Opponent can't tap it because they don't have another spirit. We block this one. Now we get a 2/2. And if we draw... if we draw a land, we can cast Karn. This is what we were hoping to do, is delay the game long enough. Opponent plays a Noble. We untap. Land. There it is. Players is mine. Play Karn. Uptick him. Pass the turn. Next turn we can downtick, take out Damping Sphere, then Ugin wipe the rest of the board away. And that should be the game. So opponent plays a Moorland Haunt. They attack us, they attack us. We take 4. We untap. We draw Prophetic Prism. Go to combat. Attack them for 6. They chump the 4/4. They take 2. Take out Damping Sphere. Play Prophetic Prism and get a redraw. We get a map. Play Ugin, and the game is over. That's what we want to happen. We want our removal and our life gain to sustain us through creatures. All right. So we went 1 and 4. A few of those felt winnable. A few of those felt like I got the short end of the stick on the variance, but that happens. I'm sorry if I was playing suboptimally. Like I said, I'm actually really depressed learning that Kentaro Miura died. So let's talk about this deck briefly, and then I'm gonna go to bed. Okay, what in this deck worked? Discarding a Tron list is fun. I think that Inquisition probably isn't correct. It probably should be Thoughtseize. I was really expecting to play against Blitz, which is why I chose Inquisition. There's a few times where if that had been Thoughtseize, we would have maybe not won, but at least been in the game longer. The Tron match where I whiffed with Inquisition against opponent mulling to 4 with natural Tron threat sticks out in mind, especially because I had Surgical. I could have Surgicaled, and then, my opponent's down that many threats. Maze Mind Tome felt awesome. Prophetic Prisms probably ought to just be more Maze Mind Tomes. We don't have that many double black mana, and we weren't really ever hurting for double black mana. The redraws were nice, but Maze Mind Tome does that as well, and gives you sustained draw. I think the Sanctum of Stonefangs, the Honden of Night's Reach, the Fun ofs, and even kind of Worst Fears, although Worst Fears I think did win us a game. Those probably ought to be cut in favor of doing more of what the deck already wants to do and does well. 23 lands felt about right. The problem is, without green, you don't have the tutor consistency, so you can't assemble Tron. And without blue, you're not drawing as many cards, and you're not answering your opponent's single play for the turn. You're not remanding their spell, drawing a card, getting closer to assembling Tron while your opponent doesn't resolve anything. You're proactively answering cards in their hand, which means that they still get to cast spells on their turn and they still get to resolve threats. They just get to resolve suboptimally, which you don't really have the catch-up mechanisms for. Now, Erebos' Intervention is a fantastic kill spell for a deck like this. We gained 5-6 life at a time. It was awesome. Tribute to Hunger, also good. Collective Brutality, great. Bloodchief's Thirst is definitely the kill spell we want to be playing, because we can't really turn on a Fatal Push, and we can kick a Bloodchief's Thirst. Thought-Knot Seer I still think is the threat that this deck wants, because if we're taxing our opponent's hand, we want to tax it more. It's a decent-sized body. We can always get Eldrazi Temple if we have a suboptimal or sub-Tron hand playing Expedition Map, that sort of thing. The problem with mono black Tron is, besides the fact that the green strategy and the blue strategy are just inherently better, is that you can build the deck to either be okay with not assembling Tron, or you can build the deck to try and consistently assemble Tron. The issue is, if you build the deck to not care if it's assembling Tron, why are you playing the Tron lands? Why aren't you going consistently all swamps, something like that? Because there were times where we had colorless lands only and black mana spells in hand, and that was awful. Or if you build the deck to assemble Tron consistently, you're assembling it worse than green or blue, because black lacks the early tutors that other colors have. Now, black is the color of tutoring. The problem is none of the modern legal tutors are cheap enough that they're worth it. Now, you could play Grim Tutor, but Grim Tutor costs double black and is 3 mana and costs you life. Some of the games we were playing Mastermind's Acquisition. We went and got a Tron land. We Increasing Ambition. We could have gotten a Tron land, and we assembled Tron that way, and it was perfect because we kind of grind it out into the mid game, and then we assemble Tron for the big finish. Maybe I need to be playing another tutor or two, but I think in general it's just not quite as good. The problem with this list in particular is, look at all these 1 and 2 drops I have, and look at all these 5 to 8 drops I have. I'm playing out lands with the expectation that I have to cast all of these 1 mana spells and 2 mana spells to try and make it to the late game. And by the time I get to the late game, I have not been able to assemble Tron. I'm not drawing enough cards. I'm not able to find the lands. Expedition Map by itself is not enough. Scheming Symmetry would be the only tutor I think that would actually work in a deck like this. And I don't know if you've ever played a card that lets your opponent draw cards. That feels awful. If you play a card that lets your opponent tutor, especially they get the results of the tutor before you do, that is way worse. Because if your opponent has a way to screw you, they'll find it. So, it's not there yet. Maybe Modern Horizons 2 prints something we can play in a deck like this, but my suspicion is this sort of deck is not going to exist for a very long time. Unless they print, like, Black X, search your library for a card with CMC X and reveal it, so that you can just pay 1 black and tutor for a land. Unless they print that card, I don't see Mono Black Tron really ever existing in a real semi-competitive sort of way. So, anyway, I hope you guys have heard me ramble enough. Yeah, I gotta get to bed. So, you're all wonderful human beings. Thanks for watching. Bye! Hey, just wanted to give a shout out to my patrons for the month of May. If you want to support my channel directly and have your name show up in this list, there's a link to my Patreon in the description down below. Thank you all.